First of all, just a little bit about myself. I joined the HSE 7 years ago as a Specialist Inspector for Integrity Management. Prior to that, I'd worked for about 30 years in different parts of the world. Having spent 3 years working in Russia and Siberia, I thought, time to go home. So here I am, working back in the north again.
I'm Catherine Mears. I'm a human factors specialist inspector from the HSE. And I spent 20 years of my life working in academia. So I worked at the University of Aberdeen, doing research on human and organisational factors in a range of industries, including the oil industry.
Right, first of all, it's timely to talk today of all days about the safety case. We'll introduce this session talking about the safety case. And this came out of the Piper Alpha disaster and from Lord Cullen's investigation thereafter. And for those of you who are privileged enough as I was yesterday to hear Lord Cullen, it was an outstanding talk, and he's as relevant today as he was 25 years ago. An outstanding speech. The safety cases was revised in 2005, and there is a requirement for every duty holder on the UK continental shelf to deliver safety cases to the offshore part of the Health and Safety Division to consider for acceptance. The idea of the safety case is to reduce the risks from major accident hazards. And importantly, it's a demonstration by the duty holder that they understand what those risks are and how to mitigate those risks to prevent a major accident hazard. Well, if we go on to the area of age and life extension, if we look at ageing, which is about degradation, from our perspective, we are less interested in how old an asset is than in fact what its condition is. It's all about condition management. If we look at some of the equipment that's available at onshore facilities, not necessarily petrochemicals, but there are still riveted raw-time vessels onshore which are being used today 100 years on. Now, clearly you wouldn't expect those to be offshore because they simply don't have the strength and toughness that's required offshore. But the point is well named, it's condition management that's important. If we look at life extension, typically assets, certainly fixed assets, are designed for a design life of 25 years. What happens when they reach the end of their design life? Well, you then get into the period of life extension. And we're in the position now in the UK continental shelf, around about half of all our assets are in the life extension phase. And that's quite a significant figure. But we're actually looking at some assets going out to 50 to 70 years. On the Norwegian continental shelf, the Valhalla platform is going to go out to 100 years. So we're looking at 3 to 5 times the original design life. Clearly the first thing that comes to my mind as an engineer is what about fatigue life? We're going to talk about that a bit later. And then there's going to be another period of 5 to 10 years beyond cessation of production when the duty holders are looking at removing these assets from the seabed. If you look at European statistics for onshore hazardous installations, about 30% of all incidents and 28% of loss of containment are due to aging problems. Well, this is an example of an aging problem which came from a platform a few years ago. It was a gas recycling line which suffered corrosion and insulation and then burst. KP4 is all about raising awareness in the industry. One of the key differences in the way HSE is operating the KP4 programme is this is very much in collaboration with industry. The idea is that we work with industry so that we as a whole can benefit from understanding the degradation mechanisms and forecasting the degradation mechanisms of safety relevance. It's about understanding obsolescence management. And clearly we want continuous health and safety improvement. We need to reduce hydrocarbon releases. If you have a look at the statistics which have been recently published, Steve Walker put a challenge out to industry a few years ago: reduce your hydrocarbon leaks by 50%. If you have a look at the latest statistics, we're there or thereabout. The industry has achieved the 50% reduction, but there is still a way to go. We want to work on this particular programme with the industry for a common goal. And the idea is we share the knowledge for the benefit of all. That doesn't mean to say that we don't do the day job. We still do the inspections, we still undertake enforcement. That's still required. But for the KP4 programme, it's very much a collaborative approach with industry.
Okay, so under what conditions does aging life extension management work best? Well, it goes without saying that senior management has to be totally engaged and supported. And that goes right from the safety case regulation and presenting the safety case to the operational risk assessments to making sure frontline personnel are equipped with the knowledge and skills to do the job properly. Duty holders should have focal points and life field management. So you need to have experts, people with the expertise who are fully engaged with the process, whose expertise is called upon to answer the important questions. You need to have key performance indicators and dashboards for our age and life extension. So you need to know what your progress is. You need to be monitoring what's going on. And as part of that monitoring process, you need independent audits. And I stress the word independent. You need a fresh pair of eyes to come in at regular intervals and identify where the failings might be. The important thing about auditing, of course, and you'll all know this, there's no point just identifying where the issues are. You have to close out those issues. So the auditing process should contain an aspect of closing out. You need to have good succession planning. And from the point of view of me as a human factors person, that means having the right people in place to step in, to take over the duties, to take over the tasks, people who are competent to replace those who are perhaps retiring, who are perhaps moving to new jobs. The aim workload should prioritise the risks. We should have some risk ranking process with the highest risks dealt with first and going on down the chain. And aging and life extension should be embedded in your aim policy procedures. So if you look at hydrocarbon release, what are the factors that influence them? Well, studies by Professor Jan-Erik Vinum, who is based at the University of Stavanger, did a study for the Petroleum Safety Authority where they were looking at hydrocarbon leaks. And they found that 60% of those leaks came from human interventions. They came from human failure. Now we all know that people fail. People make errors, people make mistakes, people don't follow procedures. But they tend to do so for very good reasons. One of the things that I'm very interested in is why people fail. We need to address the reason why people fail. So the significant issues that Professor Vinum found was that there was a failure to check pre-work isolations and a failure to check isolations and integrity after being reinstated. But I think the important thing is to start at that point and then to understand why these failures have occurred. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. Another interesting study, another interesting finding from this study was that it wasn't possible to demonstrate a correlation between leak frequency and age of the installation. And that speaks to something that Andy mentioned earlier. It was about the condition, not necessarily the age. The condition and the maintenance of the condition of the installation rather than the age in itself. And other factors were more important. And for me, when I read this study, the important factors that Professor Vinum identified, the one thing that has the highest correlation with the hydrocarbon leaks was the safety climate or the safety culture of the installation. So basically, the better the safety culture, the fewer the leaks. That was, I think, perhaps the only significant correlation that he identified. And finally, he noted that technical degradation caused about 21% of hydrocarbon leaks. The important thing is the legal aspects coming in.
Talk a bit about some of the interim findings from the programme to date and what works well in terms of aging life extension management. So for process safety and fire explosion, clearly the major accident hazards need to be identified. That's actually a critical part of the safety case regime. Collective barriers to failure, boat time model, they need to be identified. Hazards, quantitative risk assessments should be aligned to 5-year thorough review summary. There needs to be performance trending. All too often, we find that KPIs are on the basis of has it passed, has it failed. That only tells you on the day what's going on. It doesn't help you in regards to forecasting for the long-term future. And aging life extension management is all about trend analysis, data analysis, looking to the future. forecasting. It's about integrity management of temporary refuges. My colleagues still find leaking temporary refuges. And we know from Piper Alpha that the requirement for a safe temporary refuge is absolutely critical. But we still find problems with dampers not working very effectively, and problems associated with the damper indicators not necessarily matching the position of the damper. And if, like myself, you've been on a platform when the alarm's gone off and you've gone to muster stations, you really want to make sure that you're at a safety arm. There needs to be effective fire and gas detectors, and again there's been a few leaks over the last couple of years which have been detected by the human nose rather than by gas detectors. And that's because some of the detectors have been out of calibration, they've been ineffective, they've been poisoned, they've been in the wrong place. And again, there needs to be a rethink for the future as to whether or not these things are in the right place at the right time. There needs to be audits of operational risk management systems, and there has to be a long-term plan. On the structural side, structural analyses need to be up to date. Now, clearly if we're talking about structures designed for 25 years, that's a 25-year design life, and we're now fatigue life, and we're now looking at putting that to 70 years. Some considerable amounts of reassessment needs to be done, and it is being done. Failure and deterioration models need to look at both ageing and life extension. There is a concentration mode on life extension. It needs to be both of them. They're both parts of the same picture. We do have a particular problem, not too often, but there are uninspectable components offshore. Simply because they're uninspectable doesn't mean to say we shouldn't make significant efforts to try and inspect them, try and understand the degradation mechanisms. And the air gaps for 10,000 needs to be considered. When I joined the industry in 1981, we talked about the 100-year wave. And a few years ago we talked about the 1,000-year wave. It's now the 10,000-year wave, and I'm going to show you some photos of that shortly. On the marine side, there needs to be effective policies, up-to-date structural modelling, effective inspection and condition monitoring. 5-year class society surveys are important. There needs to be long-term planning, and there needs to be quantitative rejection criteria for sector developments. Again, long-term data trend analysis to plan for future maintenance. You'll have heard me mention audit, review, trend analysis on several occasions, and you'll hear me mention it again. My particular area is mechanic and corrosion engineering. The ageing life extension policy and procedures have got to be embedded into the asset integrity management programme. They cannot exist separate. We have seen in the last year or two where they've existed as separate entities. What we've been encouraging industry is to bring them together, because asset integrity management is here with us today, tomorrow, and in 10 years' time. ALE, AIM, it's all part and parcel of the same issue. The industry has had, in the past, a process of aggregating responsibility for maintenance management out to contractors and consultants. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but there does need to be internal control of this. And we have seen that the industry has taken better control of this over the last couple of years. It needs to be gap analyses, effective anomaly management tools, effects and consequences have got to be understood better. Long-term maintenance strategies, effective corrosion management strategies, equipment lists. All too often I find when I go to a platform, line lists are not up to date. They haven't identified all the lines that exist on the platform. Not all the air receivers or the hydraulic bottles or the originally manufactured skids are on the line list, and yet they contain hydrocarbons or they contain high pressure fluids, have a risk associated with them. They need to be up to date, it's important. And there needs to be effective audits. Electrical control instrumentation needs to be good inspections, well-planned maintenance for long term, timely purchasing of spare parts, effective obsolescence management, and failure trend analysis, yet again. Now, subject to timely purchasing of spares, there perhaps has been in the past an approach of the just-in-time policy, that it's the responsibility of the supplier to hold and supply the spare parts. But actually we're seeing a change where industry is working much closer with industry, with the suppliers, about buying parts, having spare parts available as and when they're needed. Pipelines. Needs to be effective. Risk-based pipeline integrity management systems. As with the other parts of KP4, A&E's got to be integrated into asset integrity management. We still have a bit of a problem with inspection of flexible risers. This is not unique to the UK, this is a worldwide problem. But there are organisations spending a lot of time and effort trying to understand how better to inspect flexible risers. One of the issues that you may not be aware of, there have been a few hydrocarbon leaks of subsea pipelines over the last 2 years. And it's important that the cleaning frequencies and the intelligent frequencies associated with subsea lines are done at the time that they're supposed to be done, so they match the KPIs. It's not always necessarily the case that they do match the KPIs. So I was going to show you some photographs of the 10,000-year wave. Well, this is the ecophyst on an unusually calm summer's day. Drawing your attention to the very spindly legs, well, to my mind they look spindly, that structural engineers have clearly done their job and they've determined that's the thickness it needs to be. A fairly typical winter's day, nothing too dramatic, but you can see the white horses there. And again, looking at this, spindly legs, a lot of windage up here. But it still looks okay. Oops. Then the weather gets even worse. You can see the air gap closing and closing. And then in 2011, November 2011, I was in the offshore British sector. We had a hell of a storm come through, and that wave hit the underside of the ecophyst platform. It hit ESDB. And if you look in the background, whilst that wave was going through the ecophyst, that was the air gap that the jack-up rig thought it should have on that day. So there's a significant difference between the two. So my pipeline and structural colleagues are in discussions with industry about how better to preserve the ESDBs offshore, because this is a problem we're going to see again. Before we finish the talks, Catherine's going to talk a bit more about human factors. In terms of KP4, we generally see a significant amount of time, effort and money being invested by the industry to look after asset integrity for the long-term future. We have seen significant improvements by the industry. From the industry's perspective and our perspective, if you manage age and life extension effectively, you will get improved health and safety performance. And I'm convinced that associated with that, you will get extended production. So there are two benefits, significant benefits that we have. But it's important to get across the message that you have to continue asset integrity management, age and life extension management, right to end of cessation of production, and in fact beyond, to when the asset is taken out of the ground.
Okay, so I'm now going to finish off a little bit about the human side and the workforce involvement in the life extension. And for me, there are two sort of critical issues: risk perception assessment and risk communication. And on the risk perception side, basically you're going to talk about risk assessment from top to bottom of the organisation, senior managers, middle managers, supervisors, and your frontline operators. And actually those frontline operators are your final defence in the chain of defences that exists all the way through to protect against major asset hazards being realised. So one of the first studies I actually conducted in the offshore industry, which was about 5 years post-pipeline, was looking at the risk perception of offshore workers. Did they understand where the hazards lay and how to respond to the hazards? And actually, we found that they did have accurate perceptions of the risks offshore. But that, as I say, was post-pipeline. The safety case legislation had been enacted, presentations were being made to the workforce, so they hopefully were very well informed about the quantitative risk analysis and all the different hazards that were out there. So it'd be quite interesting to know what the status is nowadays about risk assessment offshore. But on the assessment side, on the more formal risk assessment side, My colleagues in HSE are still finding problems with the operational risk assessments. There are too many of them open, they don't seem to be conducted very well, the procedure doesn't seem very clear, and so on and so forth. So we're seeing a failure to identify and address these major hazards, risks through the ORAs. Although there is guidance out there published by Oil and Gas UK, and there are other tools available as well. One of the important things about risk and about understanding risk is having good risk communication. So you need to create a system whereby people are led to think in a particular way. You don't hesitate to use your head, but sometimes you have to sort of force people to think in a particular way about the risks. So you need clear procedures that guide the correct thought processes. And one example of that would be that an ORA default would be to shut down the equipment, to shut down the plant, or whatever. That's the way your thinking should be guided in terms of procedures. Unless of course, there are very, very good reasons to continue. We've heard a lot of talk today about safety being the number one priority. So, guide the thinking. Safety is our number one priority. We should shut down. The other aspect of good risk communication, of course, is that you have feedback. You have feedback to ensure that people have understood and to confirm that they've understood information that's been used. So, for example, reading on a pressure gauge. And we know that other high reliability industries depend a lot on clear, concise feedback. So pilots give feedback all the time to the aircraft to make sure the information is being received and understood. So what's my take-home, or our take-home message today? Well, we need to equip people at all levels of the organisation with the appropriate knowledge, skills and attitudes to recognise risk and respond appropriately, to identify the hazards, to make appropriate assessments of those hazards, and to understand how those hazards can be realised further down the line. It was interesting that Maersk Oil, and also I know that other organisations have been sending the workforce to Spade Island, where I was involved with a company many years ago, who were concerned when their workforce showed complacency in response to a hydrocarbon release, and nothing happened. There was no source of ignition, nothing happened. And they were concerned about this, so they sent people to Spade Island to experience what would have happened if that amount of hydrocarbon had been ignited. And it's really powerful. So, important to have that. We also need to understand and actively manage factors that influence human performance. And they're called performance influencing factors, you might define it here. Things like operating the wrong valve, not following procedure. We need to understand why people do that, why people are led to fail. And things like distractions, of course. You know yourself, if you're distracted in a process, you forget your place, and something can go wrong. Badly written procedures did a lot of work on safety culture and measuring safety culture in the offshore industry over the years. And the one thing that would come back consistently was that procedures were not appropriate for a job, they were not clear, and so on and so forth. Things like poor communication and the lack of feedback. And I think with respect to that, it was lack of feedback about suggestions and concerns raised by the workforce. Finally, we need to develop a culture where speaking up about those concerns is accepted, is acceptable, and is also managed appropriately up through the line. Because let's face it, nobody likes to transmit bad news. You want to transmit good news. But we need to make it acceptable for bad news to be travelling up the line and to be reacted upon. So finally, we've put our brochures on the chairs here about the HSE document on Play Your Part. You'll find details in there about these issues of control of work, competence, having a competent workforce, cooperating and communicating in appropriate ways to identify, assess and manage risk. And we need to fight complacency. I mean, that was what got me involved in the trip to Spade Island. The workforce in a particular plant being complacent about what had happened. And we need to develop a culture, we need to develop a positive safety culture that pulls together all these different aspects.
I feel myself to do more HSE visits.
Okay.
The new introduction of the HSE KP4 onshore platform, well, I've less time to go.
No, the energy division is basically expanding to include pipelines and lines, but the offshore part of energy division is still unique and separate, if you like, within the division. And in fact, what we're looking at is expanding ourselves. We've got adverts out all the time to take on more inspectors. So it will not diminish our inspections. If anything, we'll do more.
That's a big worry.
Everyone is talking about it, and I hope that helps to some degree. Yes, sir.
Question for you. When you talk about life extending life expectancy of the platform, where do you draw the information from to make an informed judgment of whether the platform can actually stay in the process for longer?
It's a long answer to that, but basically the duty holders have a duty of care, and they have to understand the fatigue design and the pushover analysis of all the structures. In terms of topsides, so right at the very beginning, they have to understand the condition of their assets. They have to undertake all the inspections that are required, and they should be trending those inspections so they can demonstrate that the condition of that asset, that particular piece of process pipework, will survive either to a point at which they can replace it or to the end of their cessation of production. That's all part and parcel of asset integrity management. And we inspect that and we assess that as part of our job. Any other questions? Feel free. Sorry?
Is the HSE going to bring AO and A into
Asset integrity management is already part of the safety case. If you have a look at the offshore safety case regulations, and if you have a look at regulation 13 of the offshore safety case regulations, which refers to the 5-yearly thorough review summary, it actually says in there it's required to